Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Ankerstar Wealth Morning Show. I'm your host, Allison Ankerstar, and today we'll be talking about NVIDIA's earnings and AI investing, the resurgence in Chinese tech stocks, and superfunding in 529 accounts. But before we begin, as a reminder, this is a financial education presentation and should not be construed as personal financial advice. Full disclaimer information is available at ankerstarwealth.com. Good morning, Steve. NVIDIA crushed earnings this morning and is positioning as the leader in AI investing. What do you think?
Well, I think, congrats to NVIDIA and their team for doing just that, right? It's crushing earnings in the middle of a season where everybody's excited about how, bad things are going to be. So NVIDIA proved not only can you crush it, but they're also talked about, and you can kind of see in that top headline there, NVIDIA says AI growth is going to help drive out performance. So they guided up basically, and the stock's being rewarded. I'm looking off on another screen up, it looks like 12%, excuse me, or so. So the question becomes, it's just like, okay, I've heard you talk about AI. We all know about Chat GPT. We did a demo on that the other day. You have Bard for Google. Baidu also came out with, talking about its own AI this morning. So if you want to invest in AI, then you have to look across the smorgasbord of opportunities to do that. And of that smorgasbord, NVIDIA is one. Now, I'm not particularly a fan of NVIDIA as an individual stock, but the way I invest in AI for myself, as well as the book here, is the ROBT, which for some reason is there. It is not coming up for right away, but we'll get it to come up here. Well, maybe we won't. There it is. The First Trust Artificial AI and Robotics ETF. We've been this thing for years. Once it fully loads here, there we go. You see the resurgence since October already. I think this has more to run higher as well. When you think about investable themes, AI is obviously going to be one of them. How would they make money? Well, Chat GPT, again, owned by OpenAI, bought by Microsoft, or partially, if not all. These things will switch hands, but you simply have a free platform. You hook it out, put it out there, and you get people that are to use it, and then from there you turn around and you advertise on it or start a subscription. Right? Twitter went to $8. Facebook, there's going to be an advanced version that goes to $12 a month. So you could see that with a Chat GPT. Now, the market pressures will be that this should be open source, right? And should be free as a utility. So we'll see how it all plays out. But again, I like, the way I play it as a money manager is ROBT. That way I capture NVIDIA and literally 50 plus other AI firms that are positioning themselves as the market leader. So I'd rather have the whole basket than necessarily focus on an individual stock.
Next, Chinese tech giants Alibaba and Baidu both beat earnings as well. Is it time to get back into Chinese tech stocks?
Well, risk is the answer. You have to be up for the ride, right? You're a communist country. They can sometimes put some draconian measures out there. The reason one of the reasons I should say, not the reason, one of the reasons tech stocks have made a comeback in China is they've started to loosen some of their draconian policies, right? As far as, letting capitalism kind of do its thing over there. They've come off of the COVID super restricted, not overly, but, they deemed it necessary. Super restrictive COVID policies are now letting people get out and about. So I think Chinese tech is positioned to go higher. Full disclosure, I've loved Alibaba for over a decade. Invested in a long time ago, and then end up having to sell all of it as COVID happened, because you're right, Chinese tech was just dead, right? So out of Baidu, out of 15 other Chinese tech names, I used to get a little bit of crap early on because I was kind of the Chinese tech whisperer, bringing stocks to the table people haven't heard of in the mainstream. Well, now they have gone mainstream, and a lot of people know about Alibaba. So they crushed earnings. Their stock's up 3%. You can look at all this. It's not as important as the overall trend. And then when you look at the chart, which I have pulled up here, again, this is a 5-year chart. Here's where you are on this ride. I mean, this thing went above 300 in 2021. Yeah, that might be late. Yeah, early 2021 as looks like, as it came back out of COVID, and then it's been, dropped down to, here was the COVID low right here, and it's dropped half from there. Okay, you think this is a cheap valuation? If you know anything about PE ratios, normal PE for if you're making toothpaste and cheese will be around 10. What I would call a normal company, or like the S&P 500, somewhere between 21 and 23. Their their PE ratio, now that they just became profitable, is all the way down at 0.24. Right, so this is a return to profitability story. I like it. I haven't made the decision on whether I'm going to start loading up on it or not. It's up 7.5% for the year, which is not a tremendous amount, but overall, I think it's worth taking a look at. Now, much like we had the discussion with NVIDIA and AI investing, you have the same with Alibaba, Baidu, any of the individual Chinese names, or just buy the whole thing. This is the China Internet ETF KWEB, which has all the big tech names in it. I've been in this before, pretty heavy, had to back out because of COVID. Now looking at taking a hard look at it. So where's the COVID low? Right in here. That's your COVID dip. And again, it's down below the COVID dip. So are things coming back? I sure think so. We shall see. Is there risk out there? Absolutely. China can turn on a dime. We did just have, our jets shooting down their spy balloons last week, which, was a good story last week, but I think strategically insignificant. But you never know. Things can turn ugly with China in a heartbeat, the Taiwan situation. So, excuse me, anytime you invest in China, you have to expect some headline is going to hit your investment. So it's really more of a longer term buy and hold sort of thing than a necessarily watch it go straight up every day.
Last, how can people maximize their 529 plans for their kids?
Okay, I get this question a lot. I work with a lot of folks that are in the kid either bearing or raising range, right? Range, if you will, to where they want to try to either catch up, or fund something early on that they don't have to turn around and fund again. Again, a 529 is a tax advantaged account where you can put money in to it earmarked for education. It grows. You don't get any benefits for funding it, but it grows tax free. Right. So when you eventually, when your young prince or princess is off to college, you can now take that money and use that towards their education and not have to pay taxes on the 18 years of growth that you've had if you started when they were born. I did that with the girls. We're benefiting from that. So it's a really good way to go. But people will ask, how much can I put into it? Well, technically, it's the gift tax applies. When you think of the annual gift tax is $17,000 a person. Right. So you are allowed to, in a 529 account, super fund it up to 5 years in 1 year. And then once you do that, you are now subsequently locked out for the next 5 years because you've already maxed it out. So in 2022, which is yesteryear, that was 16,000 per year. So times 5 is 80. And then if you look down here, the contribution increases to 17,000 in 2023, which means the 5-year amount is 85,000. So you could stroke a check if you have it laying around, 85K into, like I said, your younger person's account today. Can both you and your spouse do it? Yes, you can. So really, you could 85 times 2 looks to be 170. So you could put in 170,000 as a couple today. If you have 3 kids, then you could max all of them and you could do 170K times 3, 510,000. So when people ask me, they're like, hey, I've got a bunch of money on the sidelines. We want to put it into our 529s. I'm like, well, you can get crazy with it if you want, and put in $500,000 if you got 3 kids, right? So most people aren't looking to do that, but you can. So some other questions from this. Can grandma and grandpa do this? Absolutely. I love it. I think it's one of the best things that folks should do is when you give, money for Christmas or whatever, throw a little bit into the 529 instead of the toy of the day or the, tennis shoes of the day for their shoe game. So, that's an option. And then the other thing out there is, what is the max I can put in? It's like, well, these are run by states. So you're going to be with the state plan, the Schwab 529 for those with me works through the state of New York, so it's subject to their limits, and don't quote me, but it's either like 625,000 or 650. Once the account per child gets to that level, you cannot put any more in. It can grow past that level. Obviously, it just continues to grow. But so I wouldn't worry about putting too much into these things. because you know what? Somebody is going to need this money for education. So if your kids don't burn through it because they get scholarships or they go to cheaper schools or whatever, and there's still money, then that money's left over for their kids. Or you can switch it around, beneficiaries in the family. If one child doesn't want to go to school and the other one wants to get a PhD, you simply, log in, switch the money over, and then you've got money towards their advanced education. So a lot of flexibility with the 529 plans. But to answer the question, Superfunding up to 85,000 in a one-time check per child per adult for 2023 is the overall limit.
Thank you, everyone, for your questions. Please submit your questions as a comment through social media or directly to our email at vipservices@ankerstarwealth.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe to get daily updates. That's all we have for today's show. I'm Allison Ankerstar, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.